everyone, my name is 𝐿𝐼 and welcome back to It Gets So Lonely Here. So last time, what did we do last time? It has been a while for me. Oh yeah, okay, so I remember now. We finished the mermaid's route, so we're gonna continue. And I think this point, which path will you take? Yep, it's this one. So we're gonna go to the village since the mermaid also mentioned something about the village. So you want to go to the village? Good idea. Let us see what further trials await you there. This night is far from over, as much as you might wish it was, and there is still much more to discover. I wonder what will happen next. You follow the path which leads to the village, supporting yourself on weary, aching limbs which feel ready at a moment's notice to snap at the knees beneath the burden of your weight. The soles of your feet are screaming at you. You need to lie down, and quickly. You only hope, as you continue to run, that you will find a suitable residence in which to rest at a village. You do not know what will await you at the village, but you have visions as you run of a quaint scenic settlement, all thatched cottages with sloping roofs. Hello? Okay. Oh no, my model is acting weird. Surely there will be a kindly peasant who will be willing to put up a young runaway for a few nights. You can imagine, too, the face of this kindly peasant from the fairy tales you read in abundance as a small child. She will be broad-shouldered and ruddy-faced, with dull brown hair crammed beneath a cap. The game's volume here is like pretty quiet, but sometimes it's really loud, so I will adjust the volume every now and then, so I apologize for the inconsistency. Her arms will be sturdy from many years of washing clothes and milking cows. But she will be kind to you, and compassionate, just like a mother. You do not know what mothers are like. You hardly ever spoke to yours. This is interesting. So, the MC doesn't have a father, and the MC seems to be distant with her mother. That's quite a shame. And what if for the castle, it's gonna talk about a sibling because she has no siblings? You are only guessing. You are not a complete fool, however. Despite your tendency to daydream, you do have a few reservations. Peasants do not, as you know from your voracious reading, have much money, nor do they have much food. It might be hard to convince a resident of the village, even the kindly washerwoman of your fantasies, to take in a complete stranger. Still, you must try. That is all you can do, really. So you run to the village. It takes you some time before you finally emerge from the woods, but finally you manage it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Did I not say that time had begun to lose all its meaning? The forest is behind you now, at least, and all the awful nightmares which dwelt within it. It is still cold, though, and still foggy. It is still dark, too. The sun has yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now, though, as it hangs above your head round as any pearl, or orb, or crystal ball. The moonlight shines down upon the village, nestled among the hills like a diorama. Hope anew bubbles within you. You have finally made it. Surely not, but your salvation awaits you. You follow the winding dirt path to the village, looking this way and that. But your hope, such a precious, fragile thing, soon begins to fade. The village, up close, does not look half as welcoming as you imagined. There are cottages, yes, but they are in a state of disrepair. There are holes in the roofs and holes in the windows. Most of the doors are tightly shut, but others are gaping open, the kitchens beyond them even darker than the night sky which shrouds you. There are no lights on in any of the windows, and neither can you see any people, insomniacs like you, at them. You cannot hear anything either, beyond the sound of your own footsteps and the low, mournful sighing of the wind. I like how they add like little sound effect touches, like what I mentioned in the previous video, the drowning thing. Now it's footsteps. The village is quite quiet, eerily so. It is immediately obvious, even to a naive girl such as yourself, that something terrible must have befallen this village. You know before you try your luck at one of the houses that nobody will answer you. There will be no kindly red-armed washerwoman to welcome you here, no matter how much you wish for it. But that does not stop you from wishing regardless. Your knuckles rub smartly against the wooden door. Your efforts soon prove, however, to be in vain. There is nobody here to hear your entreaties. How very sad. You try another door, then another, but the result is the same regardless of how many doors you rap upon. Nobody answers you. How could they? There's nobody there. Once again you have found yourself all alone. At least you have found some dwellings in which you can rest your weary head. Will you utilize one of these cottages for your purposes? Nobody's here. You might as well. But no, an abandoned cottage is not what you are looking for. You would far rather have companionship, would you not? Bravely, you swallow your tears. You wipe your eyes with the back of your arm in a well-practiced motion, then inhale. You square your shoulders, and you keep on going. Surely the village cannot be completely deserted. There must be one person here, at the very least, who can help you. That is what you're thinking as you resume your search. You flit from cottage to cottage with precious little to show for your determination, until you make yet another discovery. This village... Okay, that was a bit spooky. This village, with its squat thatched cottages bathed in the moon's glow, has a church. Well, of course it has a church. The villagers who once dwelt here were not godless heathens. Not that their faith did them all that much good in the end. Still, the sight of the church soothes your overtaxed heart. You were so focused on your fantasies of a kindly washerwoman taking you in, you did not pause to entertain the fancy of a kindly nun doing much the same. All hope is not lost. You approach the church, which seems to tower over you, despite it being so humble. The church is a small one, but it is stout and sturdy. It must be, for it has withstood centuries, forever standing, sentinel, on this hill, like a relic from a bygone era. The church does not have any stained glass windows, but it does not need them. Even without more luxurious trappings, the church still exudes an aura of dignified solemnity. The stone building is fringed by a sizable graveyard, one which occupies the rest of the hilltop and some of its sloping sides. The graves, which have been planted by generations of wardens, are hewn from a similar stone to that which the church's walls are made of. Some of the gravestones are shaped like lozenges, while others are shaped like crosses. A handful of headstones are even shaped like angels, though these are few and far between. There are very few people in a village such as this one who can afford such luxurious final resting places. Ugh, spooky. You look at the tombstones with an almost childlike curiosity, forgetting in your examination of the visceral, heart-rending fear which gripped you as you ran through the forest. You are out of the woods now, and you have subconsciously already begun to relax. You try to read the names hewn onto the myriad tombstones, but it is dark and you are tired, and some of these graves are very, very old indeed. You strain your eyes, but you do not have much luck in this endeavor. Oh well. Such superfluous details are not important. You eventually tire of examining the graves in turn. This graveyard is an expansive one, unusually so, given the village itself is so small. How can it boast so many corpses? And there is much to explore. You walk about the perimeter of the church, casting your gaze first here then there, then everywhere consumed as you are by your immense all-encompassing curiosity. And as you do, you see her. Ooh, cute! She looks like an ordinary girl, small and scrawny, just like yourself. But she is much, much more than her unremarkable appearance might suggest. For some moments you observe her, hiding all the while in a shadow cast by the church. Like a furtive lizard clinging against a rocky edifice to shroud itself from the sun. There's no sunlight here though. There's only the night sky, and the stars, and the moon. Beneath the moon's light, a silvery implement of the girl is clutching shimmers. It takes you a few moments to see what it is that the girl is clutching in her hands. It is not until you see her manipulate it, its sharp edge biting into the earth, that you understand. It is a shovel. This girl is standing in an isolated corner of the churchyard, late at night, and she is digging a grave. Well, you suppose she could always be digging a hole for the sake of it, but her work seems much too precise for this to be a result of mere whimsy. It is hard for you to see her face, given the distance between the pair of you, but her posture is one that speaks of supreme concentration. She moves slowly, mechanically, like a woman on a mission, driving the end of her shovel into the earth over and over. Her motions are regular enough to be repetitive. There is something hypnotic almost in the manner in which she attends this task. Should you risk interrupting her? Do you dare? You get the feeling that she would not appreciate it. The shovel in her hands, meanwhile, is rather hefty. If she wished it, she could cause you no small amount of damage with it. Cold anxiety makes your skin prickle. You do not know if you should risk speaking to her when she, in her dark cloak with her shovel, looks so very strange. You know, she reminds me of like a Grim Reaper, mostly because of these hourglass hairpins and her cloak itself, because Grim Reapers are usually depicted with these kinds of cloaks, and also the bones make it obvious, but also the hourglass hair clips. It makes me think of like time running out. But what do you have left to lose? You have come this far. It would be folly to turn back now. It is with this thought in your mind that you decide to approach the strange girl. Your footsteps are quiet. You have grown accustomed to slinking around like a cat, but they are not quiet enough. The girl's senses must be finely tuned, because she blinks. Then she turns. Your eyes meet, and once they do, you feel your breath catch in your throat. You did not have a clear view of the girl before, concealed as you were in the shadows, but now she is looking at you. You can tell she is pretty. Her skin is very smooth, and her hair, though obscured by a dark hood, is very fair. Her eyes, meanwhile, are a clear, cool blue, like ice. Again, with the death thing, death is usually associated with cold because the body temperature, it like loses all its warmth. And I really like this character design. I didn't really have much comment on the mermaid, really, because I don't know a lot of mermaid characters. She looks as the— wait, what was the previous sex? Oh, there. Those eyes of hers, which are large with unease, are fringed with very long, fair eyelashes. She looks as though she has stepped out of the pages of a picture book. She is simply too perfect to belong to this world. Perhaps she is some kind of vision, a waking dream, a hallucination? But no, she is none of those things. The shovel she is clutching in her hands looks solid enough, its pointed tip glittering wickedly in the moonlight. Wait, this line though, this is the same for the mermaid. You steel yourself, expecting perhaps some sort of outburst. But the tension soon drains the girl's slender shoulders. Her fingers, which were once gripping the handle of her shovel tightly, relax. Her lips curve upwards at the edges. She is smiling, and what a smile it is. It is transformative. When she smiles, she looks radiant, angelic almost. Hers is a smile so suffused with light that your eyes begin to prickle from it. You are so relieved. You almost feel as if you could cry. It would not be the first time you have wept during this night, and neither would it be too surprising if you did. You have been through a lot. You must be exhausted. The girl holding the shovel seems to realize this, because she bridges the distance between you cautiously, as one might approach a skittish cat. Then she says, in a rough voice which does not match her dainty appearance, well, she does live in a rural village, what were you expecting? I do not think I can give her a rough voice, but I will give her a dainty voice. I hope that's okay? Oh, it is good. Oh, it is so good to see another person. I was afraid I was the only person left alive, the only one in the whole world. Now this is quite the effusive greeting. Same line! Same line! Her introductory speech is riddled with exclamation marks. She's rather more personable than her apparel would make one suggest. You, a well-bred young lady, cannot help but feel overwhelmed. It is your turn now to be on your guard. Anxiously, you observe the girl with the shovel, and you ask her what she means. What happened? Oh, do you not know? Country girl accent, I'm so sorry. There's an awful lot you do not know. So much, in fact, it would fill a whole encyclopedia. No, a whole library. You shake your head, ashamed at your ignorance, and the girl frowns. You mustn't be from this voice. You mustn't be around from these parts. I guess I should have known. This village is a small one, and everybody knows everybody else. The girl's expression falls. At least they used to. Back when there was still people to know. That ain't the case now, though. Not after the plague. There was a plague? That would certainly explain why the village, when you walked through it, was so quiet. Did everybody else succumb to this mysterious illness? That's right. It's just me here now. I've not seen another human being in a long, long time. It gets so lonely here. Title! Oh my god. Now that is an interesting turn of phrase. Aha! Aha! It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? Yeah, it's literally the title! Oh my god. You do not have much time to ponder this, however, because the girl takes a step towards you. Oh, but where are my manners? They must have gone rusty after being on my own for so long. My apologies, miss. You look like you've come a long way. You said you were a traveler, yes? And your hands are very cold, just like ice. Would you like to come inside? Maybe have something warm to eat and to drink? My home's small, I'm afraid, and my food ain't nothing fancy. But I'd be more than willing to share. I think I'll keep this voice. Yeah, I think... It sounds closer to my normal voice, I guess. Wait. Oh, there. It's not every day another girl stops by. Especially not one as pretty as yourself. I'm feeling very blessed. The girl laughs, a carefree, airy sort of laugh which does not match your initial impression of her. You thought, when you saw her among the graves, that she would be more distant somehow, and more mysterious. Perhaps you are mixing her up with somebody else. You are still unsure if you can trust this girl, but her invitation is an appealing one. It is much more appealing, certainly, than spending the night outdoors in the cold kipping on the graves. What are you, a romantic poet? Please. You make a show of pondering the girl's invitation. At the very least, you do not want to appear too eager. But her acquiescence is, alas, an inevitability. Why would you ever refuse her? She's the first friendly face you have seen all night. Without her, you would be all alone. Your hostess leads you to a small, humble home, located but a stone's throw away from the church, built in the shadows of a twisted, towering sycamore. The girl's home is in such a state it seems a folly to even call it a home. Hovel would to you be the more appropriate descriptor. But when your hostess leads you inside, her eyes alive, and she says, "Here we are, home sweet home." You don't have to. You don't have the heart to tell her that you don't find her home very homey or very sweet. That would be incredibly rude. Same phrase. This is very much deja vu. Though it makes sense because you can choose any of these routes at the start. But I don't know, it just feels weird. And especially knowing that the narrator is a person. I still have my suspicions about that. As a guest, you ought to be more appreciative. Half-heartedly, you look around for your newfound surroundings. The ceiling is supported by wooden joists, and it is perilously low. Not so much that you are in danger of bumping your head, but just enough to feel claustrophobic. There's a fire in the corner, though it is not consigned to a grate. The fire instead is blazing in the open, a circle of logs set alight like a scene from a witch's kitchen. Above the fire hangs a silvery pot, suspended from one of the wooden eaves. Other objects of interest are hung from the eaves, iron implements that you take to be cooking utensils, various herbs, and strips of meat left to cure. The smell of cooking fills the air, mingled with the sharp sour scent of unwashed bodies. How, you wonder, does your hostess clean herself? You do not see a bathtub anywhere. Perhaps she does not possess one. The girl's home is unremarkable in every regard, but it is, you suppose, better than nothing. At least there's a roof over your head, and food to put in your belly. The girl looks to the pot, suspended over the fire, which she gives a stir with a ladle. Then she brings the ladle to her lips to taste whatever concoction she has brewing within it. You can only hope that she is not, like the weird sisters from that famous play, brewing a broth with Venice skate fillets. Yes, I think this is just about done, the girl says, to nobody in particular. She sets the ladle down back into the pot, then looks to you and smiles. Do you want something? It looks as though you have come quite a long way, and you must be hungry. These words are like music to your ears, even more divine than the trumpets of God's most loyal angels. I feel like I keep complimenting this part, because I remember in the Mermaid's arc I didn't comment much on it, but I find it interesting she's described as an angel, because technically, Death isn't an angel. He's just like... Sorry, I shouldn't assume gender, but Death is usually a he. Probably because Persona 5. 3. Anyway, Death I usually assume he's just like a pathway or a guide to purgatory, not necessarily an angel. You are so hungry you could eat a horse. Not that there are any horses in the immediate vicinity. You express your interest to your hostess. It smiles in response. Reading is so hard. Oh my god. I love visual novels, but I hate reading. I thought you liked the sound of that. Just give me a few moments. Your hostess retrieves 2 earthenware bowls from a cupboard with rickety hinges, into which she pours 2 hefty helpings of whatever it is she's cooking. This she serves with bread, which is so hefty it could be used as a murder weapon. Oh god. It's not much, I'm afraid. It's only soup and bread. It should take the edge of your appetite, though. You thank your hostess for her hospitality, her stomach rumbling all the while. The soup does not look like anything you would typically consume, but the soup's poor presentation does not dissuade you. It is true enough that people eat first with their eyes, but when one is hungry enough, one becomes obliging enough to eat almost anything. Why else do you think that people, when stranded upon a desert island, will resort to cannibalism? Humans are creatures of necessity. You like to wrap yourselves in pretensions, but in actuality, you are not much better than animals. You are so hungry, and your stomach is achingly empty, that you certainly descend upon your food like an animal. Your teeth glint, your incisors gleam, and soon you have consumed all that your hostess has offered you. Your hostess watches while you eat, and she giggles once you have finished. Did you enjoy that? Oh, you catch your hostess' gaze, suddenly abashed. You are so hungry you fail to account for her judgment. Now you have some food in your belly, though, and you have been suitably warmed. Your old self-consciousness is returning. Did you not make a fool of yourself? You demur shyly, looking at your lap, fearful all the while of what your hostess might think of you. You do not want her to take against you. Fortunately for you, however, and for your fragile ego, your hostess is not the judgmental sort. She's not like the girls you grew up with. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's nice to see my food being appreciated so heartily. I know I'm not the best, but I've been practicing for a long while. I used to cook for my father all the time, you see. This remark catches your attention. Quizzically, you look at your hostess. Your abashment over your animalistic eating habits suspended. What happened to her father? It seems a grim thing to contemplate after having eaten, but... Didn't your hostess mention something about a plague? Yes, your hostess says, her voice soft, now and serious. That's right, there was a plague. And what of the villagers? What of her father? They're all gone now. Gone? There's no music! Yes, you see, your hostess rearranges upon her chair, one slender leg folded over the other. Then she begins her tale in earnest. My family has a history. We lived here for centuries. By the church sows, we can tend to the graveyard. Ah, so this abode is centuries old then. It would certainly explain the dirt. My father used to prepare bodies for burial back when he was alive. He built the coffins and he dug the graves and he lowered the coffins into the dirt. I know it might sound like an awful job, but somebody's gotta do it. There's no sense of averting your eyes from death. Not when it happens to the best of us. It's a noble profession, one that's been handed down in our family for generations. My father's father was a gravedigger, and so was my father's father's father, and my father's 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 father. Digging graves is in our blood. It's who we are. My. That was a surprisingly pretty speech coming from a girl who lives in the countryside. A girl who is without much in the way of education. It is apparent just to listen to her, and the way she slurs her syllables together, that she has never had any elocution lessons, not like you. There is determination, however, to her and a pride in her genealogy, which gives her a respectable aura. You cannot help but be impressed. So you ask your hostess, does that make her one in a long line of gravediggers? Yes, your hostess, the gravedigger, says. That's about right, though I was never supposed to be a gravedigger myself. It's not a woman's profession, that's what everybody says. My father didn't mind that, though. He taught me everything he knew, and then some. I might be a woman, but I have plenty of upper body strength. I can dig a grave just as well as my father could, without breaking a sweat. To the despair of my mother up in heaven, I'm sure. I'm sure if she were still alive, she'd rather I focus more on feminine pursuits like basket weaving or sewing to better attract a suitor. Not that would do much good now. There's nobody around who'd court me, not for miles and miles. What happened to her mother? She died when I was very young, during childbirth. I was only 5 years old. Oh, well, you can relate to her at least upon this point. Your parents are not dead, at least. Not as far as you are aware, but you have not seen them in an awfully long time. They sent you away as soon as you were old enough, and they never once bothered to check up on you. For many years, there have been no letters, nor any visits. You offer the gravedigger your condolences. You do not know if they will help, but you feel like you cannot say nothing. That would seem heartless. My voice is dying. Oh my god! What was it saying? The gravedigger, however, does not seem too upset by this turn of events, because she smiles, albeit somberly. It's alright, it was ages ago. I don't remember her too well, and I've never really had the luxury of sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I had too much work to do. Around the house, you ask? That too. I was the oldest child, so it was my job after my mother died to manage sweeping and the cooking. Oh, and looking after all of my siblings too. You blink intrigued, then glance about your hostess's humble lodgings. You do not see any siblings in the immediate vicinity. Where could they be? The gravedigger must have noticed your roving eyes. You are not being exactly subtle, because she shakes her head. I had siblings. 2 younger brothers. They're both gone now. Oh, you should have known. You apologize to the gravedigger for your lack of tact, but she does not seem upset by this faux pas. Faux pas? Is that how you say it? I do not know. Don't apologize. It's not your fault. My brothers weren't long for this world anyway. The youngest, he died when he was still a babe, and the oldest, he died before he reached double digits. I was upset about it at the time, of course, but I've come to terms with it. Life's a fleeting thing in this wicked old world. That's something you'll learn in this trade. Digging graves, I mean. I've dug graves for the elderly and the infirm, but I've also dug graves for young babes still in their swaddling clothes. That's the nature of death. It comes for all of us in the end. No matter how old we are, no matter how much money we have, no matter how good or bad we've been, it's the great equalizer. Or so I've heard. A chill creeps down your spine as you listen to your hostess's speech. She is not wrong, but the inherent mortality of all humankind is not something you wish to contemplate. It is too disturbing. For the longest of times, my family was a small one. It was just me, my father, and me, but that was fine. It was how I liked it. I was very happy, even if our lives weren't the best. I never had any fancy clothes to wear, and we can't dine on the finest of foods. In the grand scheme of things, we ain't anything that special, but I always felt otherwise. I thought that I was blessed. We knew hardship, of course, and famine, but that's just the way life's around here. When food supplies were low, we always helped one another out. I had my father, but I also had the rest of the village. We all looked after one another, and things always worked out in the end. At least, they did. Until the plague happened. Yes, she had mentioned the plague. We had been wondering when she was going to return to that topic. You suppose that the plague is the reason that the village, as you traversed it, was so very empty? You'd supposed right. The plague tore through the village. I don't remember when. It feels like it was a while ago. But maybe it wasn't that long after all. It feels like I've been on my own for centuries, but... Your hostess's eyes began to cloud over. She looks as though she is entrenched within her own memories. What could she be remembering? You have never seen a plague before, though you have heard of them in your history lessons. Your history professor was quite enthusiastic about the subject. She talked about piles of dead bodies stacked up on the streets, and stacked up in the wooden carts come to take them away, with no shortness of aplomb. She was a strange woman, your history professor. Okay. So we're learning about each of the teachers. Got it. In The Mermaid it was math. Now it's history. The plague can come on very suddenly. There was no warning. One day everyone was fine and the next, they were all dead. With no small amount of anxiety that you eye the gravedigger. What? Oh, I read that wrong. It is with no small anxiety. Sorry. Then you ask, worriedly, surely they could not all have died. Is that not an exaggeration? Oh, if only. I wish I was exaggerating, but it is the truth, honest to God. The people in the village died one after the other, just like that. I saw what plague does to people firsthand. My father was one of the first people who caught it. I think one of the bodies which came through that we buried must have had it. Not that I know for certain, I'm just guessing, but still. My father didn't have an easy time of it. His skin turned all gray and clammy, and he complained of a horrible fever. There were night sweats and stomach cramps. And then there were the boils. The boils? Pustules. They were the size of eggs and they were full of pus. When they burst, it stunk, and the whole house was full of it, the stink of death. The wise woman of the village came to see if she could be of any use, but it was no good. My father was too far gone already. She took one look at him, lying on his deathbed, and she shook her head. She said she didn't want to get any closer. I can't say I blame her. It was a ghastly sight. I didn't appreciate it at that time, though. It felt like she was turning her back on us. I wished her ill. I remember that, after she left. Until a few days passed and she fell sick too. Then I felt bad for cursing her. I couldn't help but worry if it was all my fault. It's silly, I know, but... The gravedigger closes her eyes. She seems to squeeze her lids together until her lashes melt like flecks of fallen snow. Her shoulders, which are very slender, are shaking. She looks as though she might at any moment fall apart. It wasn't long after that the rest of the village fell ill. They all had the same symptoms as my father. The clammy skin, and the fever, and the boils. The boils grew, then they burst, and then they died in screaming, stinking agony. My father died too, only 3 days after he fell ill. But I think that was 3 days too many. I didn't want my father to die, of course. I did everything I could to help him, but it was all pointless. None of my herbal salves had any impact. I couldn't make a blind bit of difference. All I did was stand about his bedside telling him it'd be all right, until his eyes sank into his skull like 2 black stones and his mouth dried out. During that last day before he died, he might have seen a corpse already. Oh, might have been. He didn't look at me. He didn't speak to me. He just lay in his bed with his eyes closed, groaning. I never wished any ill on my father before, but during those moments The gravedigger squeezes her hands, which are resting upon her black-clad lap, into fists. She trembles. Then in a voice throbbing with awful emotions, she says, "I wish he'd just died." Well, based on her anecdote, it does not sound like she had overly long to wait. I wonder if she could consider that a silver lining. No, perhaps not. The gravedigger is still shaking. She will not cry, will she? You hope not. Awkwardly, you look at the gravedigger. You are not sure how to soothe her, but you know you must make some sort of an effort, even if it is a token one. You shift upon your chair, which feels very cold and hard beneath your thighs. Then you say, very softly, that you are sorry. It is not much, but it is all you can think of saying. You had thought initially that your situation was comparable to that of the gravedigger, but now you can see that this is not the case. She's the person the mermaid was talking about. Oh wait, no, that's not true. No, wait, no, I'm wrong. The mermaid said it was a farm girl. This is a gravedigger girl. They're completely different things. Her suffering has far outstripped your own. Not that suffering is a competition, of course. Your apology feels inadequate to your ears, largely because it is. But the gravedigger seems not to mind it. She's very big-hearted, that girl, to smile at you so, no matter how foolish you might be. Do you really deserve such kindness? Oh, again with the apologies. It is all right, like I said. You didn't cause any of this. I'm not upset at you. I'm just recounting what happened is all. I do wonder though, why I never fall sick myself? Because she's death. I thought I was going to die, so I had already prepared for the Reaper to come and take me away. Oh, never mind. That theory is out. Maybe he wasn't interested. See, death is a he. Maybe he'd already satiated his appetite on all the others. That, or maybe he thought he'd have to leave me alive for practicality's sake. When my father gone, who else would tend to the dead? I was the only person left by the end of it all. So I had to bury the people in the village. They're all resting peacefully now under the earth, where the plague can't reach them. On one hand, I'm happy for them. They were able to escape from all their suffering. When I think about all the people I've lost, though... The gravedigger tenses. Then she sniffs. When I think about the kindly washerwoman who helped me scrub the mud and the dirt from my clothes. Aha! So this village did have its fair share of washerwomen after all. It would seem your earlier insistence upon this particular point was not without merit. And the handsome young farmers who used to flirt with me. The priest who preached at the church who told us wonderful tales of paradise. And the children who would skip stones on the lake and play hopscotch in the streets. I can't help but feel so lonely. Another line! The gravedigger's eyes begin to shine when she has finished her address with tears, but she does not let them fall. She's being very brave, much more so than you are. Anxiously, you extend hands towards her, meaning to... what? Give her a hug? You do not know her well enough. Pat her head? That would be infantilizing. Squeeze her hand? Perhaps that would be misconstrued as a romantic overture, and that is the last thing you want. You endured more than your fair share of teasing over that. You sit there for a few moments, paralyzed by indecision as the gravedigger poorly suppresses her sniffles. In the end, you let your arm drop back to your side. Her hand rests upon your lap, as useful as damp kindling. You do not know what to do with it. You do know that you ought to say something, though, to show that you heard her plight and that you care. You do not know what this something should be, however. No words could ever console the gravedigger. They would never be enough. They can offer some balm, however, to the bereaved. And so, after a pause just long enough to be awkward, you offer your condolences. What else can you say? Oh no, the gravedigger replies, wiping a few stray tears away with the back of her arm. It's alright. I've grown used to it, really, being on my own. I mean, it ain't so bad, really. And I'm not alone now, at least. I met you. You'll keep me company, won't you? Well, what can you say to that? You aren't callous enough to trample this poor girl's hopes, are you? You know full well yourself how awful that feels. You can do nothing but nod, a response which makes the girl smile more wildly still. That's wonderful. I know you're just a traveler who's passing through, but I can offer you bread and board until you leave. I have food enough in a spare bedroom. I can make it up for you right now. You must be tired after your long journey. Just give me a moment. The gravedigger rises to her feet in a flurry of excitement, then retreats. You watch as she departs, a little too eager to please and frown. The girl's home is a small, humble one with a low ceiling and slanted walls. You cannot imagine such a small dwelling possessing a spare bedroom. This so-called spare bedroom is, in all likelihood, the room her father slept in before the plague carried him off. You do not think that you would much like to spend the night in the room of a dead man, but what choice do you have? You are tired, wretchedly so. Why, it is all you can do to keep your eyes open. While you were running through the forest, desperate to escape your pursuer, you had no thought in mind beyond finding some safe sanctuary in which you could recuperate. Now that you have found this said sanctuary, it would be unreasonable to find faults with it. You ought to learn to be more thankful for what you have. There are many, many people in the world with less. Voice crack. You rise and follow the gravedigger. When she has finished her preparations, to her so-called spare bedroom, which is every bit as cramped as you feared it would be. At least there's a bed, which comes as something of relief. The rest of these lodgings are so humble you are half expecting a straw pallet. As tired as you might be, you cannot lie to yourself. You have no desire to sleep among the hay like an animal. I'm wondering what if I started with this route? Would this comment not be included? Because, I mean, it's possible, but this is clearly referencing to the previous route. The sheets of the bed are clean, too, a fact you discern with a cursory glance. So you will not be expected to sleep upon the sweat-soaken linen of a plague-ridden man after all. This really is your lucky day. I got you this too, the gravedigger says, somewhat shyly, as she hands you a folded gown. To sleep in. I thought it might come in handy. Your own clothes are, a little shabby. She can say that again. Your skirt is covered in mud, and the hem is torn and ragged. This nightgown is one of my old ones, so it suffered a bit of wear and tear, but I hope it'll feel alright. It's clean if nothing else. You accept the nightgown from your benefactress with words of thanks. You want to sound appropriately appreciative, but you cannot mask your fatigue. Weariness overcomes you and you yawn, a fact that the gravedigger does not fail to notice. Oh, begging your pardon, I do not want to keep you. I'll be making myself scarce. If you need anything though, don't hesitate to ask. I'll be happy to help. The gravedigger bows her head to you like a drudge, then hurries off, closing the door behind her with a thud. Tired though you are, you soon find that you rather miss your hostess's company. In the face of her good-natured smiles, you could almost forget all of the hardships you have hitherto endured. In her absence, however, your lodgings feel almost unbearably cold and inhospitable. You suppress a shudder, then unclothe yourself. You work quickly as you are, but your fingers are cold and they fumble with the buttons of your blouse. It takes you more time than you would like to complete this endeavor, but you soon have your shirt and your skirt dispensed with. You are too tired to fold them neatly, so you do not bother to fold them at all. Instead, you cast them carelessly upon the floor, as defiant as a sulky child, then pull on your new nightgown. Your hostess' earlier warnings were apt enough. It is quite worn, but it fits well enough. It is more comfortable, at least, than your old uniform. You have endured worse. Newly dressed and ready for bed, you loosen your hair from your braids and settle down among the sheets. It is with a sigh you extinguish the weakly flickering candlelight which burns on your bedside, and with another sigh that you lay your head down upon your pillow. Though physically exhausted, you have to wonder whether you will be able to sleep at all. You can recall your previous dash through the forest in such a vivid detail. Your heart is still pounding. The fear has yet to leave you. Perhaps it will never leave you. Your terror was such, it almost feels as though it has suffused itself into your bones, into your very being. But your exhaustion is greater than your worldly anxieties, and soon it claims you. Your eyelids fall shut and your breathing inevitably begins to even out. It is not long until you are spiraling through a dark deep abyss, lost in Morpheus's kingdom. Oh, god of sleep. But your sleep, despite your worried state, is not as restorative as you had hoped. Your imagination has always been overactive, even at the conservatoire. You are frequently beset by dreams of the most vivid nature. The dreams that you have this night, lying beneath unfamiliar sheets upon an unfamiliar bed, are no less intense than usual. Okay. This is weird. Well, not really weird, but more like interesting. Because it seems that this gravedigger is associated with violins, and the mermaid is associated with this twinkling sound. So, I mean, I guess it could be used for sleep, but I think I would have preferred if there was a different soundtrack for sleep, though it kind of makes sense. In your dreams, you are back at the conservatoire, the place where this adventure of yours began. Oh, wait, sorry, I was wrong. I just remembered this also played in the forest. And also, this is literally the theme of the song. I'm so sorry, I literally forgot. Wait. There. You are wearing the crisp white blouse you once discarded, and your grey unremarkable skirt. Your hair is tied in braids, and your eyes are downturned, forever focused upon your feet. You tried not to look at your classmates, and you thought yourself fortunate if they did not look at you in return. You did not want anybody to notice you, until that awful winter that is, where everybody stopped paying attention to you for good. Nobody tried to trip you when you walked past them in the hallways. Nobody, in fact, so much as glanced at you. All of a sudden, there were no malicious whispers, no wicked laughter, no pulled hair, and no thrown objects. You were giddy with relief at first, over this newfound means of tormenting you that your classmates had devised. But this little game, that of complete and utter disregard, continued and on and on and on, as the days grew shorter and the nights grew longer. As the time passed, you began to fret as to the state of your own corporeality. Could anybody still see you? Did you even exist at all? Then, at long last, you found it, quite by accident, the source of all your woes. One of the girls had erected it in the forest through which you were sometimes bidden to jog for PE class, beneath the shade cast by an old oak tree. It was a makeshift tombstone, a small, meager monument made of stone, upon which one of your classmates had hewn a name, your name. And you knew at once as you stood there, standing beneath the shade of that ancient tree, that this was the reason behind your classmates' silence. This is why they had, for many months, been ignoring you so assiduously. They had buried you. In their hearts, you had already died. I think I will end it here. The one thing I would like to say is that these dreams definitely tell you, rather, how we are going to die. Because if I recall correctly, for the mermaid, the dream was about these girls who were bullying us and, us, MC, you get the idea. They pushed us into a fountain and then we ended up drowning. Now we're being buried alive, which makes sense. Gravedigger, it's an obvious death to be buried alive. So I'll just save here, I think. And we'll continue on next time. Bye bye!